Join me in welcoming Paul Otellini to the stage. Paul.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Appreciate it. Okay. Good morning. I wanted to just, before we sat down for a chat with John, I thought it'd be interesting to show you a few demonstrations about where I think some of the technology that's being developed is going, and hopefully what some of the opportunities for you as Web 2.0 folks are around that. It's nice to be here because I think it's nice to have a respite from sort of watching the stock market crash every day and come here and think about what the future is likely to hold for us once we get through this. I was thinking about this morning. You know, if you look back at the prior downturns, obviously the dot-com bubble bursting and the '97 recession and so forth, one thing that is not consistent with Mary's slides yesterday, where you see economic turbulence, is the history of the web. If you look back over the history of the web, every piece of data shows consistent growth in all areas. Web traffic, video traffic, e-commerce, number of people coming online, servers to serve up all that content, et cetera, all have a very, very consistent curve over the history of the web that has been undiminished in various economic cycles so far, and I think will also be undiminished in this cycle when you look back at it over a multi-year span. And so I think that it's important for us as we go to a conference like this to think about not just today's market turbulence, but also what's going to happen as we get through this thing, and more importantly, what kind of products can we develop around the web to make sure that people take advantage of that as as the cycle plays its way through. So I wanted to talk briefly about two different opportunities, one in professional networking, and the second in the personal internet. I'll give you some demos on both of those in a couple of seconds, but let me start with professional networking. And in that, what I'm talking about here is that we're all familiar with social networking. We all play with social networking tools, spend a good portion of our days in those tools. My daughter spends her life in those areas. Those tools can be applied to the workplace, but they haven't been to date. And I think that is an opportunity for you, and it's a need for me running a large company on a global basis. Intel turned 40 this year. When we started 40 years ago, the world was a whole different place. Obviously, there were no PCs, but there was also no email, and companies like Intel could operate out of small startup offices the way you guys, many of you do, but we also found it was easy to communicate because everybody's right there. Today, the needs of a global enterprise, we operate in 120 countries around the world, 86,000 people, are a lot different than they were in a little startup office in Mountain View 40 years ago. And I think it's important, though, to think about how we can recreate some of the needs that you have when you're a startup in a large organization. When information is in silos, you may not know people, new hires are having a tough time being oriented into the workforce. How does all that work? Well, I wanted to show you today a vision of tools that we're working on at Intel that represent, let me say, enterprise collaboration, enterprise social networking. And I'll walk you through a scenario about a prototypical new hire. It's going to be a woman named Lily. She happens to work for us in China, and her job is in marketing. Okay? And while I talk through this, if you'd watch the screen, you'll see what I'm talking about sort of play out in front of you here. So Lily comes to work. It's day one. And we want to give her an environment where she can help integrate herself into the company. We want to allow her to start networking, introducing herself to her teammates, team members around there. We want her to have a better work environment. What are the projects she's working on? How does she coordinate in those projects? Company information, events, parties, et cetera. We also want her to be able to learn. What kind of classes are out there? What kind of best-known methods can she get from coworkers in terms of giving her hints to do her job better? We want to give her a network that's dynamic. It is one that is customized by her, but also learns from her coming backwards. We want to use the knowledge of that network, to provide the context, the information she needs to do her job. She can find the people with the information she needs at the right organization levels, and within the social context has the means to reach out to those people. We want her to be able to search for all the rich data in the corporation to establish stronger connections with their team members and build the professional networks. Communication tools are essential in all this, We have to give her the tools of collaboration, IM, email, voice, and video, but we want to integrate those very tightly into a communications network manager. She also needs to manage her professional learning. And by that I mean she needs to be able to view online and organize her classwork to learn about her job, acquire the skills she needs to go further in the company. We want to subscribe her to news feeds. We want to have information tagged from teammates reaching her. We want the system to also find content on topics related to her projects, products, and interests, all dynamically fed to her. We want her to be able to manage her time in a personal work zone. In this example, she's part of a marketing campaign. That workspace would include a number of themes. It would have a team wiki to coordinate the activities. It has a collaboration zone where she works with team members. It's got a meeting manager that allows her to integrate all the meetings and the communication tools. The meeting manager allows her to know which attendees are online. She can find all the shared documents. She can find the applications and the collaboration tools to deal with all of those people. And the system will continuously learn through the messages that she sends out, the documents she creates and reviews, the team members that she'll collaborate with. The data is continuously being updated to improve the system's ability to give her what she needs when she needs it. It changes the whole nature of collaboration. Now, these tools don't exist today. We're building some of them at Intel. And if you will, I call this Enterprise 2.0. In case you haven't figured out, there's an interesting thing about businesses and software. They pay for it. If you're looking for a business model that might be interesting, finding the way to capture the needs of enterprises, medium and large-sized businesses, is a pretty good way to make a living. All you have to do is look at Microsoft and Oracle to really see the potential of what you can do with enterprise-class software. We have different needs in the enterprise. We have the same needs that you have in the social arena in terms of the connectivity, as I just showed you, but also have the needs of security, manageability, reliability, all the stuff that IT managers need to be able to run their enterprise in a robust fashion. I think this is a big opportunity. I don't see any companies really addressing it, and we're pointing it out as something that you may want to consider as part of your business plans going forward. The second area I wanted to talk about was the personal internet. And this is really something in terms of where I see the internet evolving. Today, when we use the internet, for the most part, we're going somewhere. We go to a search engine and we go find, through that search engine, something we want to do. Yeah, there's some news feeds and RSS feeds and so forth, but for the most part, we're going to find things that we need. The personal internet turns that around. It says we can use the power of computing, we can use the information that machines know about you, where you are, who you are, what your interests are, and so forth, and bring relevant information to you when you need it. And that's a much more proactive environment. And I'll show you two examples here. One is traveling on the road, in China in this case, and one is in commerce. So let me bring up Craig from Intel to walk you through the first demo. Hi, Craig.
Paul.
So first of all, let's just pretend that we're now sitting in China in front of a storefront in Beijing, right?
Absolutely.
Take it from here.
Basically, what I wanted to do is with a mobile internet device, something like this, I can go ahead and take advantage of all the tools that are available out on the web, delivered to me automatically, and then be able to have basically everything that I need to be the most productive business traveler and maybe taking some of the sites as well, Paul. So let me go ahead and show you a couple of cool things here right away. Paul, how's your Chinese?
Not good.
Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say I'm probably about a 1 or a 2. However, if I had a device that could do this.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So actually what I've done here is with some computing power in this little device, I'm able to go ahead and bring down from the web automatically with an always-on mobile broadband connection and bring down whatever tools I want. So as far as in a other example, it looks like we have a restaurant here. Let me go ahead and see if we can find a little bit more information about the name. There you guys.
Yeah, there's glare on it, huh?
Yeah, we got a bad glare. That's all right. 1 second. There we go. Okay.
good home-style cuisine.
All right, so
Great.
I mean, so you know it's going to be excellent if they put good in the title
double
twice.
good, yeah.
But maybe we could find some more information about it. So again, utilizing the internet. Let's see if I can go ahead and bring down, and I'm always automatically, through my wireless broadband connection, connected to my social network. So not only can I see some of the dishes that are going by here, some ratings and reviews, but I can see, actually, looks like one of our connections here has put a video blog up. So let's go ahead and take a look if this place is any good.
Okay.
We really like this place. Just check out all these specialty dishes, especially the Phoenix Claw.
Phoenix
You're big
claws,
on Phoenix claws there, John, huh? Okay. So, well, let's go ahead, and I usually go with the sweet and sour chicken. So I'm a little unfamiliar with that dish. Why don't we see
what's on the menu?
If we can translate the menu. Okay, looks like we got Phoenix claws right there at the top.
They're cheap, but what are they?
Pretty inexpensive. Maybe we can find some more info. Oh, does that look familiar to you, Paul?
It looks like chicken feet.
Chicken feet, that's exactly right.
I think we'll pass.
You're not hungry anymore?
Not
okay.
anymore.
All right, well, maybe we could try something a little different. So while I'm able to go ahead and translate everything that I see, why don't we use another usage model? Because maybe I need a little bit more, particularly maybe something in the area of speech. So while I go ahead and let me bring up my speech translation application here. Now the GPS knows that I'm in China, so it automatically downloads these libraries the second that I move off the plane. So this guy's ready for speech, and maybe we can interact with our restaurant something like this. Table for 2, please.
2人1桌.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
If you're someone with a a Mandarin level, about a 1 or a 2, you can see how this is going to be an amazing business tool for us to be on the road.
That'd be pretty useful. How about in the area of commerce?
Well, absolutely. We definitely don't have to be in China to go ahead and take advantage of some of these great Web 2.0 features. So what I have here, if we wanted to go to the mall, pick up some stuff for the kids, I'd have just a Connects box toy, but this could be any product that you wanted to go ahead and take a look at on the shelves. But maybe I can go ahead and get some great info from that. I bring up a little menu. Now I can go ahead and get pricing, some information on the SKU, and maybe even check my local area if there's another store that has this for a cheaper price. But I bet you weren't able to see some info like this before.
That's pretty cool.
So with this technology, I can actually see all the pieces as they come together. I can see the fans start up there and give it a little rotation. We're going to see the wings are going to be flapping around, and some truly, some amazing info that we probably wouldn't be able to get before. Now I can go ahead and take a look at the back here and do some alternate views. Okay, this is an alternate configuration for the device itself, so I can make a spaceship. Or maybe we want to go and utilize our internet connection to find some more information in the fact of video. This is actually the top YouTube selection for this toy product. And then even from there, while I go ahead and see them building some pretty cool Connect toy models, I can go ahead and click again and get the entire product web page. So truly amazing stuff. And we're really seeing that we're leveraging all of the truly amazing tools out of Web 2.0. Again, I have another box and I can see another alternate configuration, but because all of these tools are persistent and delivered to me seamlessly as the user, it's really going to give particularly businesses and relating to consumers some incredible business models that we haven't even seen before in a way to innovatively market their products. And let's go ahead and maybe even have 2 of these guys together do something pretty amazing. Oh. So we got we're going to actually have this race car picked up. So as you can believe, with just these tools here,
yeah, that's very cool, Craig.
We'll be able to do some stuff we've never seen before.
Yeah. And I think these are just really examples of what I was trying to talk about earlier in terms of using the technology to give you the information you need where you need it in a seamless fashion. He didn't have to go program things, ask for things, and so forth. They just came to him. However, there's one little trick that we're playing on you in that device, right?
There is one catch. Now, while all these applications and usage models are very, very real, Paul, we're stealing a couple of cycles for some Core 2 Duo machines that I've hidden backstage. However, Intel engineers never sleep, Paul, so it's not going to be too much longer before we'll have the power and performance and the power savings in a device that size.
Right, great. Thanks,
Thank you
Craig.
very much.
You know, Craig's right. You know, in 2009, we'll bring out a chipset for mobile products, handheld products, that'll be as powerful as the chipset that went into the laptop, the Centrino laptop, just a couple of years ago. And by 2010, 2011, we'll have the power of today's mainstream, high-end desktop machines in these little handheld devices, built-in internet connectivity, to be able to make this kind of thing reality. So as you think about expanding your business models forward, this is where the technology is going. We'll make it available, we'll make it persistent to you. There's some things that we have to work on to make it happen. Obviously, we'll continue to drive the chip technology faster and faster. Intel will also continue to invest and hopefully help deliver a really good, first-class wireless broadband infrastructure around the world. As you may know, Intel's a big backer of technology called WiMAX that we're starting to deploy in the United States now. But you've got you have to do a lot of work in your companies as well. I think the tools to integrate all of these, the tools to have Web 2.0 technologies come inside the corporate firewall are yet to be developed to make them as good as we need to inside a company. And also, the commerce opportunities around things like this are yet to be developed. But from my perspective, these are huge opportunities. And in this period of kind of uncertainty, I remain very optimistic about our collective future and the opportunities in front of us. Thanks very much, and now I'll join John back on the couch.
Jeez.
Nice,
Nothing blew
nice chair,
up.
John.
I mean, I felt like, in a way, I sort of felt like I was back at the Agenda conference in 1989. I just expected something to explode, but it didn't. No. Congratulations. Yeah, well. That was some pretty cool stuff. I have a number of questions for you. I'm you guys may not know this about me, but I'm kind of an enterprise geek. I started covering the enterprise space in the 80s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the 90s, and I'm one of the few weirdos who actually thought it was interesting.
You're a mainframe guy?
Well, actually, it was the mini revolution is when I got really engaged.
My first job was programming a PDP-10.
Oh, there we go. There we go. Tech, DEC, Wang,
yeah.
All the dead ones. But when I saw that enterprise stuff that you showed, first of all, as someone with a company that's growing quickly and having communication problems, because we went from platoon size and we're on our way to brigade, I really want that now. And it looked like, it sort of looked like a mashup of LinkedIn, Facebook, social text, which is an enterprise wiki software, and some other stuff. I think you're right in saying that there isn't really a robust development culture, certainly in Web 2.0, for that market. But isn't one of the reasons that there isn't is because the model trends to the free in consumer Web 2.0. I mean, Google is probably one of the strongest contestants in this space with its suite of products that are challenging Microsoft. But they're giving it all away. Do you think they should be?
Well, yeah, I happen to like the Google business model. I think it works pretty well. But I think
Paul's
there's
on the board of
yeah,
Google.
Right. Truth be known, I think you can have it both ways. In any kind of application environment, there is a history of having two tiers. You can have free for a certain level of technology. In fact, even some of the Google apps have two tiers in them. I'm just suggesting that the level of security requirements, reliability that companies need inside the firewall is different than the stuff that consumers need.
Right.
And that there may be a business opportunity there in tiering your offerings in a way that addresses the ability to bring these kinds of new tools into this enterprise workspace that give you the same kind of knowledge base that you have outside of it. If you want to give it away, that's great. But my sense is that companies will pay for this because it solves a real problem.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, certainly, I would see that. I want to ask.
It's tough to have an advertising-based model inside a corporation.
Although I imagine you could have ads sort of for the corporation.
That doesn't work well.
Now, that device that was sort of helped by the Intel horsepower that no one sees back in the kitchen.
Actually, it's behind the sofa.
Oh, is it behind? Oh, yeah. There it is. My God. And there's another group of computers back there. That's probably like the redundant piece of it. These guys don't mess around when they do demo, I can tell you that. But that little device, you mentioned by 2011, the horsepower you have in a desktop machine will be in that device.
Yeah.
Will the device have more than 5 minutes of battery power?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that you know, in terms of our design points, as we look into 09 and 10, what we're trying to do is bring the power and the performance you get out of Intel architecture, the compatibility that you get out of Intel architecture in terms of all the web applications that are out there, and the energy efficiency that you see in something like an ARM chip today. And the way we're doing that is using the most advanced silicon technology in the world to build the lowest cost, smallest die in the world for these kinds of things. Advanced silicon technology is a small die, lower power, higher performance. It's that simple.
Well, I personally can't wait. What do you make of, I mean, John Doerr yesterday, sitting here, you know, held up his iPhone and said he thought it was quite possibly the most important platform in the history of history. Yeah.
The history of history?
Well, like he said, well, Doerr, who is not prone to hyperbole, but he was very, very bullish on the iPhone.
Yeah.
It wasn't mobile devices generally, it was the iPhone. What do you make of the iPhone, and what's your view of sort of the overall space in terms of Doerr's comments?
I like the iPhone. I have one, and actually my family's got a bunch. But I think it was a spectacular device. You know, the day that Steve introduced that, it instantly changed the paradigm of what people expect in a smartphone. They expect not just voice, but also all the kind of seamless interface to the internet that you want, and now viral application environment around it. That is not going to be unique to the iPhone. You've already seen Android launch with the Google One phone, and I can tell you that our phones started ringing the day after the iPhone was launched. Every computer company, every handset manufacturer, every carrier in the world has an interest in doing devices of that genre. And you know, what we found in PC space is the competition is really good. It brings out the best in companies. And I think that as all of those industries compete to find the best evolutionary path from the iPhone forward, we'll have, as consumers, better and better products.
And that means it's good for you because they're all going to want your chips to
well,
put in there.
If we do a good job, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that there's going to be similar to the explosion? I mean, there already has in a way, but now we're talking about one of the things that really struck me, particularly with this toy example, was how, you know, completely web meets world that demo was. You know, you've got the physical world, and then you're wrapping data from the web around that, and then you can make choices based on the web and the world meeting, which I think is super cool. It strikes me whoever gets that done first wins. Or maybe actually, if you look at Mac and Windows, maybe it's second. So
I don't know. I think this is going to all be done with standard tools and standard interfaces. I don't think this is a proprietary environment. I think.
But isn't the iPhone a proprietary environment?
As a device, yeah, but the applications aren't anymore. They're being created by, you know, thousands of developers out there. That's what John's fund is all about. Yeah, they happen to still be approved by Apple because it doesn't want to bring the network down and doesn't want incompatibility problems. But to a first approximation, the APIs are open and you can have at it. You have even an increasing degree of freedom in something like Android. And as other vendors bring out other Linux-based environments, those will, I think, will be even more open. The problem is that the networks will require that there is some degree of testing and compatibility so that they don't screw up the entire phone network that these are going to be run on.
I think there's a certain bias in this room, and you guys boo me if you think it's wrong, or at least a romance might be a better way of putting it, with the parallel of the internet itself. You know, initially there were the people who controlled the lines of the internet who got grumpy and didn't like the idea that there was sort of an open layer on top of it that they didn't control, that people could build on, and they didn't get the dollars, you know, and those people were the you know, broadband providers, essentially, the you know, AT&Ts, who's coming up next, and the Comcast and the early ISPs. Do you see a similar evolution of the mobile platform in terms of it becoming kind of a presumptive plumbing that people can build on top of, or do we still have to pay our taxes to what Steve Jobs famously called at the D conference the orifices?
Yeah, I heard that. I think it's going to get increasingly open for two reasons. One is voice is almost free. And I was damn near lynched a few years ago when I said voice will be free. And the carriers at the time didn't like me saying that, but it's true. If you look at it today, voice traffic versus data traffic is almost, you can't see it on a chart. So it's clear that all these advanced networks are being built for data. They happen to also carry voice as a prerequisite base capability. But the voice is not where the money is. The money is going to be in the services and in the clicks associated with the services. And I think all of the carriers, handset manufacturers, and computer guys are all trying to move towards that. The simplest way to get there is to use what is already available, which is the web. You don't have to rewrite the web. What you want to do is bring the entirety of the web to these mobile devices in a scaled fashion, subject to the screen size and the human interface requirements. But why reprogram the entire web? Why do it separately? So our view is very simple. Let's bring the power of the web, the breadth of the web, to these devices, and that brings the same monetary machine that's web-based today to it. Now, there may be some people that want to skim some costs off the top of that as a matter of offering those networks because they're costly networks. I see no problem with that.
I want to step back for a second and ask you about your business model, Intel's business model. I'm not just saying the business model of selling chips to businesses and to consumers, but talk to me about how you have to think about product development at Intel. You told me a very compelling story about digging a hole.
Yeah, well, I capriciously describe our business model as we dig a really big hole in the ground. We spend 3 years and $4.5 to $5 billion filling that hole with a state-of-the-art semiconductor manufacturing facility. That facility will run a technology that at the time we dig the hole in the ground doesn't exist. It will manufacture products that at the time we dig the hole in the ground haven't been designed that will address markets that are not yet here. And we get to do that 2 or 3 times a year, year in and year out, in terms of running the business. So it creates a very high risk profile business model because you're betting on the future of technology year in and year out. And it's not for the faint of heart, but on the other hand, the returns are very good. The current generation of technology, 45 nanometer, that we're shipping in the market today, took us about $12 billion to develop in terms of the factories that run the technology, the engineers that design the products, and the engineers that design the technology. That $12 billion investment will return at least $80 billion of revenue over the 2 to 3 year life of the technology. So if you do it right at scale, it's a very good business. But if you miss a beat, the whole thing can come crashing down. And
have you missed any beats?
Well, we've had a few stumbles. We've never really missed a beat. In terms of the technology thing, I mean, we're the custodians of Moore's Law. And I guarantee you there's no CEO at Intel that wants to be the person that ends Moore's Law. That would be a bad thing to do.
So how's that going?
So far, so good. We've got, we'll deploy 32 nanometers next year, and we have the next 2 generations beyond that, which is every 2 years, proofed out in our labs. We know how to build that technology. So we're good in terms of things we know how to bring to market for at least 6 to 7 years, which is as far...
Is that about at the end of your... Is that when you're retiring, right about then?
Maybe. But Gordon, if you talk to Gordon, he'll say, I never knew how things could be done more than 5 years out. The interesting thing about Moore's Law is that it's not a law of nature. There's nothing in natural law that says transistor density has to double every 18 to 24 months. It's a law that reflects human engineering and human innovativeness. And so the entire industry marches to keep chips on that same curve through their inventiveness.
Now, what's interesting is we have Kevin Kelly, who's going to come out soon, and he would argue that actually, I think I'm quoting him right, that human inventiveness and technology is actually a reflection of nature. In other words, we're sort of merging our minds in the machine. I'm not asking you to go all late night on me here, but you know, it strikes me that there's got to be a point where you run out of space between the atoms, right?
Well, you go,
or are we looking at one of those sort of third grade aha moments where you realize you can always cut it one more time?
No, you will ultimately get down to the atomic level, and we'll at that point, scaling of silicon technology, classic CMOS technology, will end up. But as I said, we don't see that anywhere in the near term. There's technologies beyond that are in research in terms of carbon nanotubes and you know, dots and those kinds of stuff that we're doing deep research on, but they're not for prime time anywhere in the next decade.
Right. Probably the most famous phrase in the Silicon Valley is Andy Grove's, "Only the paranoid survive." So what are you afraid of?
Andy? You know, he said that to reflect, to some extent, that risk characteristic of our industry that I described a few minutes ago. But he also said it because there's always a new technology that's potentially disruptive to your entire business model. And what he was always worried about was something coming up to disrupt us, and make sure that if there was a disruption, make sure we're the disruptor.
Right.
And I try to live by that. We introduced a new product line late last year that went into production this year called Atom. And it's a new kind of microprocessor. It was designed using first time we ever used our most advanced technology to build the smallest chip possible to go into low-cost handheld devices. And they're mainstream now in products that are called netbooks, which are essentially sub-$300 notebooks that are designed for web surfing, that bring new boundaries of cost and affordability into computing. That was a big fight inside of Intel, to use the most advanced technology to build something cheap. And
make it up in volume.
Not just make it up in volume. The margins on these are very good. If you believe that there's a elasticity in computing or in phones or anything else, which there clearly seems to be, if you want high volume, you need lower cost. So we decided to design for lower cost. The alternative is someone else would have done that. It will happen. So we could either be our own disruptor, or somebody else would do it to us. And to me, that's the way we play out the paranoid attitude.
We're going to run out of time here, so if anyone has questions for Paul, the mics are where they always are, there and there. Now, one of the themes that we're developing here this year, and I think you showed a lot of it, is sort of the potential possibility of what the industry is calling cloud computing. You sit on the board of Google, as we discussed, a major force in that space. You are seeing it, sort of develop. What's Intel's role in that, and what do you make of, over the last 5 years, the rise of these, massive platform companies? That it certainly has been good for your business, yeah. Right? In terms of server farms, but what do you make of these companies? Are they the first generation of companies to be eclipsed by some new generation, or do you think that these guys are here for good? You've got a long-term, view of this.
I think in this part of the industry, scale matters, and therefore those who scale out early and carve out a position to sustain that can do best. I think Amazon is a great example of that. Mm-hmm. They built a spectacular infrastructure to run their business at a peak in the fourth quarter for the holiday sales, and then they said, what the heck do I do with that infrastructure the other 10 months of the year? And they've created a very interesting hosting business around that. To me, that reinforces their ability to continue to scale and keep the technology strong. I think the Microsoft model, the Yahoo model, the Google model, Baidu, Alibaba, other people around the world are all trying to replicate the kind of scale environment that you're seeing here. And I think it'd be very difficult to, unless one of them stumbles badly, to disrupt that. It's like the semiconductor industry in the world I know. Sure, somebody can have a great new idea for a great new chip, but the ability to bring that chip to the hundreds of millions of units per year requires an investment of $10, $12, $14 billion. Where are you going to get that money?
Oh, the credit markets are great right now.
It's great time, great time.
That's maybe the last question I'd like to ask you. you have a global company with a global view of markets. What's going on? Help us understand this. What's your view of this current situation, and how do you how long do we have till we get out of it?
Well, I'm not the economist, John, but my sense is this is the deepest one I've seen in my lifetime. All the smart people I've talked to in this area suggest that the U.S. is in a 2 to 3-quarter recession, and then it starts having gradual growth coming out of it. And as goes the U.S., goes the rest of the world. The problem with any recession is that historically unemployment peak lags the change in the inflection in GDP. So we're likely to see much larger unemployment a year from now, even in a 2 or 3-quarter recession, than we see today. And so that's going to weigh on consumer psyche and you know, confidence, the things we talked about earlier backstage. On the other hand, it's a big world. I was in China, literally was in China last week, not this China, but the real China. And I met with the government there. The government there has said GDP next year in China will be 9%.
Well,
and
they just can mandate that.
Well, yeah, but what are they doing to make it happen? You know, you can put a number on a piece of paper, but it takes someone to make that happen. So they're putting in programs that will shift the savings rate, which is 20% in China, towards encouraging domestic consumption, right? And as some large fraction of 1.3 billion people start buying stuff,
like PCs,
start buying anything. They're already the second largest market for computers in the world, but they'll buy everything, televisions, you know, stuff that would have ordinarily been sold in San Francisco. Because the market may be down, now they're going to start focusing on their local consumption. That's good for the world. Yeah. It's good for us in technology because they're going to buy a lot of tech stuff, but it's also good for the world in terms of putting cash back into the system.
Right. Wow, it looks like we're running a little late, so I think we should probably end it there. There's one question here. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
Yeah. Paul, a great demo in the Chinese restaurant which had some translation from one speaker in one language to another. How long before it's viable that we'll have mobile devices which can do simultaneous translation for us in real life?
Well, you know, with that level of accuracy and that level of performance, 3 or 4 years. Now, it's not perfect. It takes some training. But we'll have that level of performance from behind the couch into your pocket in that time frame.
That's pretty close. Well, Paul, thank you very much for taking the time and speaking with us here at
Thanks,
Web 2.0.
John. Appreciate it. Thank you.